Welcome to Freelance Sucks. Here we discuss the dark side of freelancing about which nobody usually talks out loud. In this show, we speak with experienced freelancers, and I'm sure listening to their stories helps you prepare for freelancers' challenges. My name is Yuri. I'm a community builder at Code Control and 9am.works, and my guest is Henry Latham, a passionate freelance product manager, founder of a Prod MBA bootcamp, and a thoughtful writer and content creator. So, welcome, Henry.
Thanks for having me, Yuri.
I promised you that it's all about challenges. So, the first question for you, what is the most challenging part of being a freelancer?
Yeah, very good question. The biggest challenge for me let's take it back to actually my first few experiences with freelancing. I think, why are some people attracted to freelancing? Generally, or at least in my case, right, it was, oh, cool, yeah, I can do product stuff whilst like working my own hours and, charge quite a high hourly rate. It's got this sort of the freedom plus the interest of doing product work. The biggest challenge that I've found is ultimately, not finding it fulfilling. And that is not true of all freelancing. That was my personal experience, because as a product manager, particularly one from a startup background, right, founder and product manager from a startup background, my experience of product is always, lean, genuinely agile. Let's try things out and sort of experiment from there. Yeah. Now, generally in the freelance space for product management, it translates to project manager, right? You're expected to come in and something is predefined and you're going to help get that built. Okay, so you're going to manage that project in some ways. So, initially, I found it a bit depressing, because the intention that, the thing I wanted to get out of it, I wasn't getting. I was getting the freedom. I could, define how I wanted to do my own day, but I wasn't interested in the work, right? I'm not a project manager. I'm a product manager, a product person at heart. So did a few projects and just, found it quite disheartening, started looking for jobs, etc. And then I had a realization that freelancing is all about, that was only a challenge because I wasn't clear about the outcome I wanted to achieve with freelancing. I had always, since starting my first business and seeing that fail 8-9 years ago, my plan had always been to run my own start another business, and I'd dipped my toe. I'd done freelance, I'd done some full-time roles as well over the last 8 to 9 years. And coming back to that challenge and sort of feeling a bit down and depressed about going into freelancing, that was only because I was in the moment. I wasn't thinking about long term. And actually, when I realized, okay, I paused and said, okay, why am I getting frustrated? Because I'm not getting purpose, but that's always going to be the case until I start my own thing, right? As somebody that's run a business before, that's what I wanted to do. And the secret I found is to find freelancing satisfying. It's quite simply to be clear on the objective. Like, what do you want to get out of this thing?
Yeah.
So for some people, it is an end in itself. They like switching projects. They like meeting new people. They like the freedom that comes with that. If you're in product specifically, some people love project management. They like organizing, or, they play a long game and say, what, I'm going to be with this client for a year. I'm going to do the project management stuff, build trust, and then start baking in better product management practice, right? Bit of customer discovery, bit of product strategy, that kind of thing. So, it's not to say that it's wrong to go into freelancing at all, but you need to be clear on the outcome. And when I switched my mindset and said, well, what is freelancing for me? It is a way to get more repetitions, more experience in product and business to help me become a better product founder eventually. Then that became very empowering. And it reminded me, well, that is the long-term goal. So now when I'm thinking about different roles, or, it's a frustrating day freelancing, I don't care, because I know that this is strengthening me in terms of moving towards my long-term goals.
Yeah.
So, that was let's say, realization 5 years ago, and then 3 years ago I ended up starting Prod MBA, the business that I'm doing pretty much full time now, still doing a little bit of freelancing consulting on the side. But it worked out because I had been clear about, okay, this is the intention, and this is how I'm going to move towards it, essentially, with these different freelance roles. Build experience, use the, save the money as well to give me a bit of a safety net to start my business.
Yeah.
And that really flipped what was a frustration and a challenge actually into really, really good opportunity for me.
And what was the most time-consuming thing for you as a freelancer?
Good question. Time consuming is, ultimately like the work itself, right? For product, you're going to be doing an 8-hour day. But maybe a better answer is the meetings themselves. You could have a day where meetings only take up like an hour, 2 hours, for example. But I found that it's not just the time we allocate to something, it's the time that it actually takes in practice. So for example, if you have a frustrating meeting every day that's an hour, and you go away and you think about it and you're frustrated about it, and you're having lunch, you're going on a walk, you're at the gym, you're still thinking this thing through, then what on paper is a 1 hour meeting becomes a 5-hour thing, or even takes control of you, allow it to capture your thoughts and take control of your whole day. So I found, being selective over clients extremely important. And some particulars product, they're just not going to understand product as a practice. They're just not going to do it. And it's better just to not take the money, not sign up for those contracts, and find the path of less friction. I think that's important for everybody, actually enjoying your work, right? Mental health, but also particularly in my case, right? It was, if I'm thinking of starting my own business or starting to explore that business on the side, which is what I was doing because I was working part-time freelancing, then if something's capturing my thoughts, sort of clouding my mind, then even if it on paper takes 20 hours per week, it's not worth it because it's blocking the other 20 hours, blocking me getting something, meaningful done.
Yeah, you just can't separate your thoughts. So
Exactly.
they're always there.
Exactly.
And I totally feel.
Yeah.
And is it also the most nerve-consuming thing, or is there anything else?
Right, freelancing itself?
Yeah, like what is the most nerve-consuming thing you deal with as a freelancer?
That's a good question. I think, it's always, you always want to be, well, I'm not sure I think most people understand this. As a founder, particularly, I've always got that business hat on. You think about value, and ultimately you want to deliver value, right? It's, sometimes you can show, if you I'm confident, right? I can present well, I can communicate. I'm confident with those skills, so I can sell myself, but I want to deliver value. So, it's hard in the first few months, particularly in product, because you need a lot of context. Like, how do you create value? That's a tough question. It takes a lot of time to work through, meet lots of stakeholders, actually get things built eventually. So, that's definitely nerve-wracking. I think until you go, I'm confident, seeing impact here, then you're always going to question your value, and then ultimately question the job security of that role. And then this link to that is also, well, how much impact can you have if it's a project role and ultimately you don't have a say over what's being built? And if you're not seeing it as a, hey, is this going to be a good idea? Is it going to deliver impact? Then it comes back to that same question of worrying about value creation or lack of value creation.
What do you do if you feel that you are not creating value?
Good question. Initially, I just, carried on, right, and just tried to create it. I think the more experience I gained, now I will quite simply, first I'll try and avoid taking on those kind of roles now, but that's luckily because I have, my business running. But before that, I just set a time frame and communicate clearly with whoever the hiring person, the stakeholder was, to say, look, here's what I want to achieve. If I feel I'm not achieving it, and the things I think are blockers are not getting unblocked, then it's essentially saying, look, I don't think we should carry on past this time because I just don't see that there's going to be enough impact there. I don't think I can help you maybe I'm not the right person for this role, for example.
Have you always been so open, or you learned it by the way?
Yeah, yeah, because when you run your own business and you see it fail, like I did with my first one, you understand the stakes. You understand what is at stake. I think when you've just been in an employee, not always true, obviously, but generally true, you're not forced to think about the business holistically. You're not forced to think about, okay, well, if we've got these 10 employees, right, how much is that costing the business? If we get this new cloud infrastructure, whatever, how much does that cost? Is that being balanced by the revenue that we're generating? So, I like to be direct because I want to always act in the interest of the business. So if I think something's threatening the business, which it is if you're not creating value, then I'll communicate that directly. Now, you can't always influence what ultimately happens, but I feel it's a moral duty to do so. Now, you can carry on working for someone after if you say, I've had a few projects where it was just, I'm not going to shift this. I'm going to do what I'm told to do, get the work done, still do quality work. But ultimately, this is just income at the end of the day. You can have that mindset as long as you, as I said, you try to do as much as you can to move things in the direction you think they should be moved in.
If your friend wanted to become a freelancer, what are top 3 things you'd advise them to consider before doing it?
First thing would be to be clear on the objective. As with anything, what's the objective and how are you going to measure that? So if you say, like myself, okay, freelance, a good way to gain experience, good way to starting your own business, great. Okay, when is that going to achieve by? Define the kind of roles you want to have so that what you're doing is ultimately driving towards that long-term objective. Second one, I'll actually separate something I just mentioned there. Choose roles carefully. So, getting paid 20% extra for a job you think is just going to be a waste of your time, absolutely not worth it, right? Your sense of purpose, waking up and being excited about the day, that is not worth any money in the world. And I think third thing is learn to sell. You are now a product. You're a product. You need to sell yourself. You need to differentiate yourself. You need to be clear about the value that you provide, and not think of sales as like a dirty word. I think a lot of people see it as a negative. No. If you create value, it's just about positioning yourself and making people aware that you exist. Then.
Henry, I wish to have the sky as the limit, but time is the limit. So the final question. If you were starting freelancing today, is there one thing you would have done differently?
Yeah, I would pick a specific niche. In my case, that should have been early stage startups who've maybe just raised their first seed round or angel round. And then I would build awareness through LinkedIn, post every single day content relevant to that specific niche. Based in the UK, I'll just target that and just focus on that. That's what I do well, what I like doing, and I shouldn't have done projects that are outside of that market, essentially.
Got it. Thank you so much, Henry, for sharing your challenges and your experience and your takeaways. And it's such a pleasure for me to learn from you.
No, happy to share my real world learnings there, Yuri.
And thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, hit the like button or 5 stars and share it with your friends. That's it. We're done. See you in the next episode.